Hello, welcome to Establish, a youth ministry podcast hosted by AC UK. My name's Jake.
And my name is Emmy, and today we are bringing you episode 3, where we will be looking at how to build team. We really hope you enjoy it.
Hello, welcome to Establish. I'm really excited that you've checked in to listen to this podcast. This week's episode, we have got some special guests. We have 2 guests with us this week, and they are called Darren and Joy. They are awesome. They're leading a youth ministry in Oxfordshire, and they run a charity called Start to Stir, which they're going to tell us a little bit more about in just a minute. But Darren and Joy, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, it's great to be here.
Tell us a little bit about Start to Stir, and we'd love to hear about what that ministry is.
So Start to Stir exists to help church leaders and youth leaders to really overcome the indifference that we find in our culture. So a lot of people feel really stuck with sharing their faith because they bump up against this. It's nice that you have faith, but I don't really think I'm interested, or I really can't see how faith would make any difference in my life. And so we're just trying to resource people to overcome that relevancy barrier. So we have a program called the STIR course that stirs up curiosity and is used in mission and outreach settings.
The STIR course, that sounds so good.
I'm not gonna lie, I've used it.
Have you?
It is very good.
That is cool.
I've got also probably should admit, I've known Darren and Joy for a couple of years now, and I rate them so highly, and the material that they have put out is so accessible and it's so easy to use. And I know that the young people that I've used it with have really grown through it as well. So that's just a little plug for their material. So you should definitely check it out.
We kind of like Emmy as well. And Jake, we're just getting to know you, but you're all right, Emmy.
Well, it is a privilege. It is a privilege having you both. If Emmy speaks highly of you guys, I'm sure it's absolute gold what you've got to share with us.
Well, there we go. Anyway, right. So if it's all right with you guys, we'll just dig into the first question. That you have spent so long within youth ministry. You've created a lot of teams. I know it's something that you're really passionate about as well. And I wondered, do you think there are specific roles or specific qualities in a person that youth workers should be looking for that would help create successful teams?
Yeah, I mean, I hesitate there because, gold and old, and we have been doing this a long time. We might be some of your older guests that you ever have on here, but
that's not what I was implying, just so we're all aware.
Roles and skills. First of all, we always look for people who can pace alongside young people versus having to be tellers all the time. And you have to suss that out as the youth worker. A lot of people come into volunteering with youth work because they want to tell all the young people, all of them, they want to save them from all the mistakes that they made as a kid. And so they kind of come in with a, let me tell you everything I know approach. And so we're looking for people who have the ability to pace with the Holy Spirit and a young person, see what is the Holy Spirit doing in this young person's life, and then how can I walk alongside that and draw that out versus a teller. So that's one of the big things that we look for. It's really that balance of truth and love. Can they share and challenge a young person when appropriate, but can they do it in a full lot of love and a full lot of relationship as well?
So good. And I guess one of the questions that we've got is talking about how do we build team. And one of the challenges I know that across the UK and across the world seems to be recruiting, retaining volunteers, getting the manpower to do the ministry. And it's a big challenge for lots of churches. And I just wondered if you guys could speak and share a little bit about, are there strategies in which maybe you guys could help in the conversation around recruiting? How do you guys go about that?
Yeah, I'm going to start out with something a bit controversial, if that's all right. I actually think recruiting for youth ministry is one of the easier ministries to recruit to. So I know we all have a mode as youth leaders because we want more volunteers, but I think in our experience, the church is super up for it and they see the need. They just need the vision cast and to be called to it. So I think some of the things we've learned from people that have gone before us and also our own experiences, I think you really have to work hard at casting the vision of the youth ministry to the church. So you need that public, hey, this is what's happening in the youth ministry and it's amazing and God's moving and it's great. Because I think in human terms, people want to feel like they're joining a winning team rather than the, hey, if you don't help out, we're going to have to close the youth ministry. I don't think is motivating. So I think you got to combine the big and the small. So the big is keep the vision in front of the church in your Sunday morning announcements, in your weekly emails, but also the personal ask. So you do have to go to personal individuals and say, hey, we see something in you, or our youth asked for you, and would you pray about joining our team?
I really love that. I love that you're kind of challenging the narrative a little bit, because I do think that there is a woe is me sometimes, like within the church world, which is like, you know, we're really struggling to get volunteers, and actually sometimes it's become the, like, this is going to sound a bit radical. I'm joining you on the radical. It's almost become like an excuse, if you like, to kind of not do what God's called you to do and to kind of to stand in the gap. And so I love that you're saying actually it's not as hard as maybe we think it is. It's about vision.
And I think when you're a young youth minister, you have to decide, I'm here for more than just the young people. I'm going to intentionally build relationships with adults in this church. I'm going to join a home group that maybe isn't the same age as me, so that I can draw on a community of people and get to know people. And then also parents, like you have to get the gumption up to build relationships with parents, because they will also in turn end up being some of your best volunteers when you need help as well. So it's just really pushing through that slight fear of older adults, or and just say, hey, I'm gonna invest in the whole of this church and find ways to build those relationships.
Yeah, so good.
So good. And it's so important, isn't it? And I think it's something that I'm sure we will speak about in more episodes to come as well. But the wanting to take the approach for everyone to take hold of the youth ministry program. It isn't just for a specific team. It's a collective opportunity that we have, that people should almost carry the burden for, of saying, we want our young people to meet with Jesus. Like, even if it's just praying for them, and I say even just praying for them, it's like one of the most important things, but take that on board. Even if you can't serve physically, pray and stir in the room, for want of a better word, is really key, and something to be really aware of.
Yeah, that's a good thought to me. I think also, and maybe this has changed over the last 10 years or so, I think often we have to correct our picture of what a good youth volunteer looks like. They're not all in their 20s or 30s. Recruiting older people who are retired, I think is huge. I think it's a huge benefit, and young people want those age volunteers. And then, another thing is to not say no to people or no for people. Sorry. I think you have to look for busy people, because busy people are usually the best ones because they're good at what they do. But then we think, oh, they're too busy, they don't have time, and we say no for them before we make the ask. So don't say no for people.
And I think following on from that, because that's really key, wanting to just spend a couple of minutes talking about training for volunteers and the importance that is. And it's not just the initial training of, these are our safeguarding policies. This is, the rest of the policies that we've got going on. This is the procedures that we have to follow to keep everyone safe. But it's the ongoing training and team building as well, that, as we're talking about retaining volunteers, is actually really key as well. I don't know if you've got specific things that you guys do or could recommend for someone that is trying to establish a new youth ministry. Just to encourage them, give them some ideas of what it is that you do.
Safeguarding, we knew that would come up, right, Emmy? Well done to put that one out there, and that's the big,
I know.
so we won't go into that because I think that's covered quite well. But yeah, our big tip for training is to cast a really clear vision for the youth ministry. So it's gathering your volunteers and saying, in our dream scenario, what would we love a young person leaving our youth ministry at the age of 18? What would we love for them to look like? What does spiritual maturity look like? And we've adopted, again, from people we've learned from in the past who went before us, just a really simple, hey, our vision is to try to do youth ministry the way Jesus did ministry, to disciples who make disciples. That's the end goal. And we see 4 really clear invitations from Jesus of come and see, follow me, fish for men, or like join me in the work of the ministry. We want to equip you to minister, and then go make disciples. And so we want our youth ministry to have invitations for young people at all 4 of those stages. So I think casting vision is a really key one.
And even what he just went through there, which is kind of our philosophy of ministry, we will have a lunch after church for the youth leaders, and we'll draw out what does this look like, and then we'll do it again a year later, and we'll and they start to absorb where we're going.
It's really helpful. I'm just thinking about some of the people that might be listening to this podcast, maybe in their car or on their commute to work or whatever, and they're thinking maybe they've had some frustrations with some of their team members or the people that they've recruited, they've not been able to retain. And I know that working with people can be people, they can let us down, things come up. And sometimes, just through the nature of ministry, it leads to burnout, it leads to exhaustion, all that sort of thing. What advice would you give to that person that's listening to this that is just maybe really struggling to keep their team? They've maybe had lots of high turnover within the team. What would be some advice that you'd give to them in that scenario?
Yeah, that's a great question, Jake. And I think especially off the back of me saying, look for busy people. I think the older I've gotten, the more I've been comfortable with people serving for a season. So we need to make the commitment, like high standards for commitment and consistency. But I think it's also okay to say, hey, we're asking you to sign up for life. And if you're in a season now where life is just, you've got other commitments, it's okay to say, okay, that was a great season. It's okay to come off team, and we'll ask you again in another year, 18 months, if you're in a different place. I think another thing, probably a thing I've grown in, is pouring into your volunteers is just as, maybe even more important than pouring into the young people. And so I think if we're giving life to them, and if we're meeting up and praying with them and praying for them and knowing what's going on in their lives, then we're not just taking from them, right? So we're filling up the tank.
Yeah, it's so good. It's
really
so
helpful.
good.
You've hit the nail on the head. I feel like sometimes we can separate the ministry, youth ministry on one side and team volunteers on the other. And actually it's all part of the ministry. It's part of serving and standing in the gap. It's leading people, isn't it? It's discipling.
Massively. And I think as we started of almost saying that we would love the whole church to be on board with the youth ministry program, you want your team to take just as much of an interest and a burden of it as you do as the leader. And that's something that I'm really trying to process at the minute within my role at church, of going, right, so how can I burden my team with wanting to love our young people? And I mean that in the best kind of way. Because actually, if you're trying to establish a youth ministry, you can't carry that on your own. You have got to share the burden with people that you're wanting to do that journey with. Like, it's really key. When establishing something, when growing something.
I go to church on Sunday, and everything within me, I am contending for the young people who are in the service. Like, sometimes it's hard for me to even worship, probably just on my own, because I'm sitting there just contending. Spirit, will you move in them? God, will you do this in them? Come on, God, do it. And you're right. You need other people that are feeling that feeling of, I'm going to contend for these young people for this year, for 3 years, whatever I'm going to commit to. But sharing that burden is what you're looking for.
And I guess for me, it comes back to, as you were talking about, casting vision as well. And I think sometimes that can be a really daunting place to be in when you're in ministry. It's because vision is it's a huge thing, right? And I think we look at it and we go, oh, it needs to be really snappy. It needs to have a really good ring to it. And you're wanting to create almost a masterpiece when we're talking about vision. But you're desperately just wanting people to do this journey with you, to grasp the importance, and to set the expectation upon them as well of this is what we're fighting for. This is who we're fighting for as well. It's salvation. Like, this is so important. It's not a small task that we're asking people to come on board with. Really, it isn't.
No. And I think that heart is there. I don't think we have to scratch too far below the surface to find loads of people in our churches who have that same heart.
Definitely. I've got one more question if we have time for it.
Yeah, let's go.
I think, as I was just saying, I think sometimes casting vision can be really tricky. And this is totally off point from actually what we've asked you guys to talk about. But because we've been talking about it, I'm going for it. What would your encouragement to be, or what would your start in place point be for someone that is trying to establish a youth ministry, but at the point of going, what is my vision? How can I cast this vision? How do I know that this vision is from God, that it's been led by him? And then the secondary thing of putting it out to everybody else. In just a snapshot answer that question.
Yeah. It's a great question.
I'm sure you got lots of ideas. I'll in mine quick, and then the master here can talk a bit longer. But, Jesus has given you a vision, and you do not have to think up your own. You don't have to come up with this snappy packaged, like, he told you to make disciples. He told you to, and so it's right there. So take off the pressure that I have to come up with some fancy vision. Just do what the ancient wisdom says and make disciples like Jesus. And I keep it quite simple when I talk to people. I say, we want everyone in our group to be serving in the church in some way, and we will work to make that happen, to get them sorted so they can serve. We want everyone in the youth group to be involved in a discipling relationship if they want to access discipleship, and we will do the work to make that happen. It's just a few simple things, is getting them being discipled and getting them serving. And it's not, we don't cast this huge fancy vision. It's just very simple, basic things. What would you say?
Yeah, I don't have much more to add to that. I don't know if we're doing book promos on here, but there's a great book that we've learned from a guy named Dan Spader, and he finally wrote a book called Chair Discipling. So it's not a big book. It's super easy to access, and I think it will help the vision for disciple making. And I think that's probably my last thought. I think, especially early on in youth ministry, there's so much pressure to compare my ministry to the other church across town or other churches nationally. I just think there's something so beautiful and filling about staying present in one location a long time and making disciples in that community and doing it as a church community. And that's, it's so much more satisfying and life-giving to figure out what that looks like in your local context than to compare what your ministry looks like compared to somebody else. So yeah, figure out what it looks like for you in your church.
Yeah.
It's so helpful.
So good.
So, and you guys have been gold, not old, you have been gold. I feel like you've challenged the status quo. Like, I do think that there is a woe is me sometimes in our culture, that we don't have the manpower, we don't have the volunteers, so we're stuck. And I do think we have to get over ourselves a little bit and see there's lots of opportunity. There's so much manpower. Yeah. It's about telling the story. It's about sharing the vision, and people want to stand in the gap when you give them the opportunity. So, thank you so much for sharing with us, guys. We really appreciate your time.
We do.
And I know that people that have been listening to this, I think they're already going to feel maybe challenged to kind of go, oh, do you know what? I have been using this as an excuse, and I do think that there's there's lots of opportunity to speak to that person,
Yeah.
to share the vision, to share the heart in the church, and to get up and really go for it. So thank you so much, guys. We appreciate that.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thank you so much for joining us on this episode. It has been such a pleasure to have Darren and Joy with us. We have loved it. And we really pray that you have been challenged from what they had to say. And we pray as well that you are rooted and established within your youth ministry, and that this podcast has been able to help you with that.